So I love The Walking Dead, and in this video I wanted to do a tier list ranking all of the best seasons of The Walking Dead, all of the seasons of any of the universe ranked in order. And I just wanted to say this is the first video on the channel. I'm not going to be doing any cuts, so we're just going to drive straight in. I said drive and drop and dive straight in all at once, but I'm keeping that in. Okay, so let's get right to the list because we have a lot here. So I have Fear the Walking Dead on here, I have World Beyond, and I have all of The Walking Dead on this list. The only thing I don't have is Tales of the Walking Dead, but I guess we'll talk about that one too. So let's start by just taking a look. S tier is essentially, it's called incredible, then it's very enjoyable, average, and bad. And I did not practice. I don't have any scripts, so we're just going to jump right in. Season 1 to me is very enjoyable. It is a great first season. I love that Frank Darabont made it, and I actually just enjoyed the story overall. I felt like it was faithfully adapted from the comics. Obviously, they changed it up for the screen and stuff like that, but I like what they did a lot. I think it was a great first season. Season 2 is, to me, average. I understand some people like season 2. I understand some people hate season 2. I didn't love it. I liked the farm storyline. I liked the introduction of Herschel, but I didn't like Herschel this season. Didn't really care for Herschel's family this season. The storyline with Shane was good, and it really set this show in the mood that The Walking Dead is not a zombie show. It's a show about survival. And I know the first season did too, but this one really honed in on that. Obviously, Frank Darabont wasn't on this season. That was unfortunate. I would have loved to have seen him go through. I just thought overall this season was boring. It wasn't bad, wasn't best. It was boring is all. Was not my favorite season of The Walking Dead. Now season 3 with the prison, when they got to the prison, I am going to say that this was probably, let's put it in very enjoyable. I thought this was a very good season of TV. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say it was incredible, but it was definitely, I think, the strongest, and for so far out of these three, the strongest. For that reason, I'm going to put it a step above The Walking Dead season 1. I just don't know if it's technically like incredible. You know what? Sorry, it's incredible. Now that I'm thinking about some of the episodes in this season, it's absolutely incredible. This is when they had their first villain. I loved the dynamic with the first villain being the governor. I love the episode Clear. It's my favorite episode of The Walking Dead ever. And I love the prison storyline. I love the introduction of Tyrese, Sasha, all of them. It was done so well this season. I actually do think this is an incredible season. Looking at it, I don't think it sits right and very enjoyable. I think it's better in like the S tier of this list. Now, season 4, this season, to me, was also incredible. I thought season 4 was just an absolute banger. I loved the ending of, everything that happened with the governor, the fallout of that story, them being on their own, heading towards Terminus. Oh man, all of that was just absolutely spectacular, near perfect television. The storytelling was great. You have some incredibly strong episodes here. You have the Grove here. You have, I think, was it this season or was it season? I think it was this season where they started teasing that Morgan was still around. I can't remember. I know he comes back around in season 5, but regardless, I loved everything they did this season. I love when the characters were on their own. I love the story of Carl and Rick on their own. This was just all around a perfect season of television. I actually think it's probably a step above season 3. I think season 4 is so good. And then season 5 is pretty much just as good. I think it's a step down though, personally. Let's see. We had Terminus this season. No, you know what? No, sorry. This one's incredible too. Season 5 was great. Terminus introduction was fantastic. That episode was terrifying. Then you have everything that you get with the introduction of Alexandria. You have them on the road with the most iconic shot of the whole show of them walking alone on the road. You just have some absolute incredible content here. There's just so much to love about these 3 seasons of television. And then the next one is season 6. Now, I know a lot of people who think this is the best season of The Walking Dead. I don't personally think it's the best season. I think it's very enjoyable. I think this one actually belongs in the very enjoyable category. It's above season 1, but season 6, as you know, it's the introduction of Alexandria. That storyline is great. The talk of Negan, the threat of Negan, and the season finale of this was just so good. Aside from the cliffhanger, it was so good. There was just a lot to love here. Preferentially, I liked them on the run more than I liked them in Alexandria as a whole. At least, you know, like, I liked them in Alexandria, and I liked some of the episodes they had here. Like, I think it's called No Way Out is the one where they're just fighting zombies the whole time. You have that one. You have Glenn's fake out death episode. Thank you. You have some good stuff here, but it's just not my personal favorite. It's not like the best out of the best. I think these are some of the best. Up next, we have season 7. Very controversial pick. I think it's the worst season of The Walking Dead, but I don't think it's bad. So I'm going to put this in average, and it does feel like a crime to put this in the same. You know what? Okay, now that I'm looking at this even more, I do think that season 2 was at least enjoyable. Season 7 of The Walking Dead wasn't really enjoyable, but it's better than almost all television that I've seen. It's still a great season of television. It's just not as strong as the rest. First episode was one of the best episodes of the whole show, but then the next the next 15 episodes were really slow. They world builded a lot here, and I'm going to talk about it when we get in season 8, but they really could have condensed this in season 8. They could have. And that brings us to season 8. Season 8 is another very controversial pick for a lot of people. I'm going out on a strong limb here and saying it's very enjoyable. This is a strong deviation from the comics, and I totally recognize that. As a comic book reader, Carl's death is, I can't even. Carl's death is the worst thing that's ever happened ever. But at least, and I've said this in another video on a video that I'm going to link here, at least in terms of the story on the television show, they at least handled his death well. There is no future, no world where the idea of killing Carl is a good idea, point blank, period. But the story they told with the cards they were dealt of them actually firing Chandler Riggs, it was done well. I'm not going to lie. It was enjoyable to watch. Everything this season was enjoyable to watch. This was actually the first season of The Walking Dead that I watched episodically, meaning I watched this on AMC Live. I didn't watch it on Netflix. So I got the experience of watching The Walking Dead, you know, and to me, I felt like the community was in a good spot at this time, other than, you know, when Carl died and things like that. There was just a love and excitement for this season, and it just holds a special place in my heart. Yes, I absolutely think, and this is what I was talking about with season 7, I personally think what they really should have done was combine season 7 and season 8. Season 7 being the first 8 episodes, and season 8 being the last 8 episodes. So you have one big season with the introduction of Negan and All Out War all in one. It would have been incredible. Like, it would have been the best season of The Walking Dead, point blank, period, ever, because Negan is my favorite character in The Walking Dead ever, point blank, period, even over Rick. But the way they told the story in the 2, it's not good to me. I did like season 8, though. I liked it a lot. It was action-packed. The stories that they told with Rick, the way they dealt with Carl's death, even though I hated Carl's death, the way they chose to deal with those things in the story was so good. And the conclusion of All Out War, even though some people consider it lackluster, I thought it was really good. And I liked the battles here. There was a lot to love. The score in this season was fantastic. Even Chandler's last episode and things like that. Just, there's some really good stuff to love here. I did like this season a lot. Some Guy is one of the most underrated episodes of The Walking Dead ever. This is really a good season. I know people hate on it, but I think it's a really good season. And then there's season 9, which is the last season of Rick. But to me, this is an S tier. I think it's one of the best seasons of The Walking Dead. The first 5 were perfect episodes of television. They really were. They were so good. So good. exit to the show was so good. The only thing literally to me that I didn't like about this season was Judith Grimes replacing Carl. I know some people love Judith. I never got on the bandwagon because to me it was just like a ripoff of Carl, and it just felt so cheap because they shouldn't have ever fucking killed him off. But, you know, honestly, if that's the only negative I have to say about this season, I think this was a great season. They told the story of Rick leaving perfectly. They told the Whisperer story perfectly. I loved what they did this season. Angela Kang was on like hitting the ground running with this season. Absolutely loved it. Season 10 to me is better than season 7, but still one of my least favorite seasons of The Walking Dead. I just thought it was boring. The extended episodes other than Here's Negan were terrible. Here's Negan was really good. And then the one with Gabriel and Aaron was really good too, but everything else was dog shit. It really just felt like filler crap. There was a couple standout moments. Sadiq's death was a standout moment. The killing of both Alpha as well as Beta this season was a standout moment, even though that episode sucked, in my personal opinion. I didn't like the way they did it. Negan and Beta didn't even like fight. But that being said, there wasn't really a lot for me to like here. I loved the Whisperer story in season 9. I didn't like the way they told it in season 10. I really don't. I know some people do. I really didn't. Didn't do much for me. This was everything, and it kind of should have ended there. I don't really think the Whisperers were that great of a villain. I know some people loved them. They were better in the comics to me. Just a personal thought, but whatever. Then we had season 11, which is the last season of The Walking Dead, even though it doesn't really feel like it. I think this sits in enjoyable. This season, honestly, this season could have been a lot better if it wasn't for the first 8 episodes being about the most pointless group ever. It was just such a stupid story with the Reapers. I wish it never existed. It needed, honestly, I think the Commonwealth story needed more time to breathe as it was, because towards the end it felt very rushed. And I think if they just had the 8 episodes to put into the Commonwealth instead of the stupid ass Reapers that didn't do anything for the story, like literally anything, I think this season could have been very enjoyable, or maybe incredible, but probably not, because Rick wasn't in it. And I feel like this was such an important storyline for the comics and The Walking Dead overall that I don't think it could ever sit in S tier. But if they didn't have the Reapers, this could have been higher. It really could have been. It wasn't bad. I liked it more than season 10. I liked the season. Like, it was a good season. Even the Commonwealth stuff, I liked it. Budgetary reasons, you felt that there wasn't 50,000 people in the Commonwealth, you know, and that also has to do with the virus and things like that. But I think this season had a lot of potential that it just didn't live up to, and that's really unfortunate to me. I loved the last episode. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was a great episode for The Walking Dead. But it did feel like a marketing tactic for the other shows. It didn't really feel like a conclusion, but that's because it isn't a conclusion. It's just a marketing tactic for the other shows. That being said, I mean, it's, you know, it was enjoyable. The ending was good. And I don't think it was rushed like Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was like mega rushed. I just think it needed a couple more episodes to breathe. It wasn't bad. I thought they got through everything well. It just felt like they needed just a couple more episodes to get through it. Unlike Game of Thrones, where it felt like it needed a couple more seasons to get through it. And I'm not going to complain too much about the pacing. I thought Angela Kang did a really good job in that regard. It wasn't the best. Okay, that's it for the canon Walking Dead. Next, we have Fear, and we have Fear Season 1. I actually think Fear Season 1 was very enjoyable. Loved the story with Nick, loved how he was a drug addict, and I loved that they told it from his perspective at the start of the outbreak. I really did like this season of Fear. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good switch up. Obviously, it didn't feel like canon Walking Dead, but it was great to see. Truly enjoyed it. Season 2 of Fear, to me, was average. It was just average. I thought the death of Travis this season, or I think his name was Travis, the guy Madison was married to or dating, I thought it was terrible. And I know he wanted off of the show, but I thought it was just absolutely terrible the way they did it. I think that was this season. Maybe it was this season. I know his son's death was this season. That was impactful. That was a great episode. But this felt average. Didn't feel like anything special. Season 3 I was going to put it in enjoyable, but I actually do think it was very enjoyable. you're going to see that no season of Fear gets in S tier from me. Season 6 will come close, but it doesn't fit to me. Like, I don't know. This is great television. I'm gonna come back to that. I'm gonna come back to that actually, because I do think it was good, but whatever. Anyway, season 3 was really good. I loved the farm storyline that they told here. I loved the characters that they introduced. I just thought all around this was a great season of Fear. It was Fear at its peak. The Clark family was the best part of Fear, and all of that. So I really did like this. Season 4 to me, there's only one good episode, and that's the introduction of Morgan. Other than that, fuck this season. Like, just straight up fuck this season. And that's a shame. It really is a shame, and I could make a whole other video about this, but Lenny James and Morgan Jones, specifically Morgan Jones, is one of my favorite, aside from Negan. He's like my favorite protagonist, main character from The Walking Dead. I like him just as much as Rick. I like him almost as much as Negan, but I think Negan's the best character of all of them. But I love Morgan Jones, but they absolutely ruined his character, and it's so sad to see. They ruined it here, and they absolutely ruined it in season 5, which is also bad. I accidentally put it in an average, but it's also bad. Season 4 and 5 were just so fucking bad, man. They were so bad. Nick died here. Madison died here, even though she came back in season 7. But Madison died here. Nick died here. It was so pathetic. I mean, I know both of those actors wanted off the show. Especially Nick, but Nick was Fear, man. Like he was Fear the Walking Dead. He made the show. It was, oh man, he was so good. And to see them destroy it by adding Morgan and ruining the story, and Morgan just should have stayed on the canon show. He just should have stayed on The Walking Dead. He really should have. I didn't like the way they killed off 2 of the major parts of Fear to bring him in. I did not like it. They went in a terrible direction for these 2 seasons. They didn't find their identity. I liked John Dory, but that's about it. Just fuck these seasons. Really. I loved how Rick was in this season. I love that Carol was in this season. Like, I like what they did with his first episode. I actually did enjoy that episode. But other than that, these 2 seasons really lost direction. But that brings me to a great Morgan season, which I was going to put in very enjoyable and say it wasn't an S tier, but it may be an S tier. I think it's going to go... it's still very enjoyable. Fear's just not. It's not going to go in S tier. It's just not. It's not going to make it. It's great. It really is a great season. I loved what they did with Morgan here. I loved his story. I loved the story they told here. I loved the Virginia story. This was a great season. It really was. It was a great season. I like everything they did here. Really did. Don't have much else to say about it. It's arguably, you know what? I'm going to put it at the top of Fear. I think it's the best of Fear. It's just not S tier, I guess. I don't know. It's S tier for Fear. It's not S tier for this list, if that makes any sense. Anyway, season 7. I'm going to say it was average. I guess average is right. It had a lot of potential. I don't think they lived up to it. With the nuclear fallout story, it seemed like it was going to be awesome. I just didn't like the story they did. The pacing was really bad here. It was better than these 2 for sure, but just not that good. I like that Strand was the villain. I really did. I like Strand as a character. I like what they did with that. I just didn't think it was told very well. I really didn't. It was definitely disappointing to see. But that's it for Fear right now. Hopefully season 8's a little bit better. But Fear is just not a good show, man. It really isn't. It's not. Morgan should have never been on it. Dwight is fine on it, but still, Morgan should have never been on it. Anyway, we have the last 2, and these are easy. Both of them are going in bad. Both of these are the worst. World Beyond just fucking sucks. It just sucks. It was horrible. I didn't enjoy it at all. It was way worse than anything Fear did. It was just terrible. Jadis, sure, it was cool to see her, I guess, but it didn't tease anything. It didn't do anything for the canon story, really, other than say, oh, I saved Rick. Okay, no one cares. Like, no one really cares. These seasons fucking sucked. They were so bad. This show should have never been made. Terrible show. And I know it's not on the list, but I do want to talk about Tales of the Walking Dead. I actually think Tales of the Walking Dead was average. I would put it in average tier. It was good. It has potential to be a lot better, though. Some of the stories were weird. I get that. But this was a little pilot, a test run. I think they could do a lot more with it. I think it has a lot of potential to be excellent. It's just not there yet. But overall, this is my list of the Walking Dead universe tier list. Everything's on there other than Tails, but Tails is average. And yeah, if you like this video, this is the first on the channel, so make sure you like it, subscribe if you want to see all things film, TV, all of that stuff. And until the next one, peace out.